I, female, nearly adult, still live at home. My sister, 28, is married and has 2 kids, toddler and kindergartner. Whenever she comes over to visit my parents, she sticks me with the kids. This wouldn't be a problem, except she doesn't visit for an evening. She'll come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer, before I became an adult, we would go to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going, and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they were also going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to international security, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home alone for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darn. My mom and sister posted about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad says he knows why I did it, and he understands, but he said I should have just let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I feel bad about wasting money, but I've been to Disneyland before, and I'll go again later by myself or with friends. Am I the idiot for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? Reply with, "Oh, I'm sorry I ruined your vacation. If you had only let me know in advance that you didn't, in fact, plan this vacation as a celebration for my graduation as you told me, but only wanted me there as your unpaid full-time babysitter, I'd have made more of an effort to be there." You are not the idiot. Yeah, and OP, let your dad know that if he'd only let you in on their nefarious plans before you all got to the airport, he could have refunded the tickets or not paid for them in the first place. Warning, OP, he's not on your side. He'll go along because anything for an easy life, and he won't care if he makes your life hard. Your dad may support you after the fact, but you couldn't have told him before because he didn't tell you your sister's family was coming before you got there. The wasted money is on your parents for lying about the reason and who was going. Maybe I'm reading too much into the post, but it seems like the mom and sister mostly did the scheming. Dad likely was not in the loop, nor did he try, because these things normally don't affect him, seeing as he wasn't complaining about how hard it is to be with the kids. Likely, he and brother-in-law leave the kids to the 2 women. I could be assuming, but this is often the case. Men are indifferent unless directly affected. Then he's the idiot for that anyway. I'm puzzled. Was going to Disneyland for your graduation even your idea? Or was it a way for your sister to take her kids when she could have free babysitting? I'm disgusted by how people take advantage of others, especially girls and women, for free babysitting. The trip was for the sister, 100%. For making the honor roll in high school, one of my parents suggested going to dinner, and I was excited. Since this was for me, I'd get to pick where to go. Nope. The parents decided where we were going. Turns out my honor roll was just an excuse to go to the restaurant they wanted. OP, your parents are absolutely idiots for baiting you with the promise of celebrating your graduation while plotting to dump the childcare work on you again. Honey, next time dear old sis shows up on your doorstep, have a bag packed and a coat. That's the old trick of always putting on a coat when you answer the door. If it's someone you want to avoid, you can say you were just leaving. Sorry. If it's someone you want to see, say you just got in and take the coat off. I, 38 female, have been divorced from my ex-husband, 40, for 4 years. We have 3 kids together, a nearly adult female, a teen male, and a young teen male. I have primary custody of the kids because we live on opposite sides of the country. We alternate major holidays, and he gets them for 2 months during the summer. He works in the entertainment industry in California, while I live near family in Georgia. Last summer, our daughter decided that she didn't want to visit him during the summer. She didn't want to miss summer with her friends, had a part-time job, and had other summer activities here she didn't want to miss. The three of us talked about it, and my ex was very understanding and supportive of our daughter's choice, even though he said he was saddened and disappointed by it. But he didn't push her on it, and we all came away from the conversation in agreement. This summer is the same thing. She'll be a senior this fall and wants to stay here with her friends again. We had another conversation, and although my ex expressed his feelings and hoped she'd change her mind, he didn't push her on it. Our sons have been with him for about 3 weeks now. Last week, he called me and asked me if I could send him the boys' passports because he wants to take them overseas. Apparently, his colleague invited him and the boys to take a trip on his yacht down the Pacific coast for a couple of weeks, with stops in Mexico and Central America. This was a spontaneous thing. It wasn't planned. To say I was a bit put off by the whole thing would be an understatement. I don't feel 100% comfortable with it, but I understand it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the kids. However, our daughter can't go, and that rubs me the wrong way. I asked my ex if there was any way our daughter could go too, and he said that they couldn't wait for her unless she could make it there by the time they left. Our daughter has multiple activities already planned for that time frame that we've already either paid for or that she was really looking forward to. She was very disappointed when she heard about the trip idea that her brothers would go on without her. So I told my ex that unless there's a way for our daughter to go too, I will not send them the passports or give my permission as primary guardian to take them to another country. My ex gave me quite a bit of pushback on it because he and the boys are really looking forward to it, and he says it's a unique bonding experience that I'm depriving them of. When I told him how disappointed our daughter is about it, he said that if she's old enough to make mature decisions about how she spends her time and doesn't want to visit him, then she's old enough to realize that those decisions mean she might miss out on things that her brothers get to do while they're with him. The boys have been practically begging me to let them go, and I know if I don't let them, they'll blame me and their sister for it. You are the idiot. Your daughter made a choice. She doesn't get to have it both ways. You're ruining your relationship with your sons, and they're absolutely right to blame their sister. Honestly, I feel bad for your ex having to co-parent with you. Sounds like the daughter is the golden child. Exactly. If the daughter was willing to cancel her other plans, she could go. She's not, so she can't. Want to be treated like an adult and make your own decisions? Welcome to adulthood. I cannot fathom how OP can justify this. X isn't saying daughter can't go. She wants them to take a vacation on her daughter's schedule. Very entitled. Why are you punishing your boys for the choices your daughter made? Do you hate them that much? Send the passports ASAP. I assume they have passports because you've taken them out of the country. Don't deny him and his children this experience. You have no legitimate reason to take this away from them. Your daughter chose to alienate her father 2 years in a row. She can't cry about it now. Me, 29, and my boyfriend, 27, were at a party a few nights ago. We met up with my friends. My boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for a year, and we celebrated our anniversary 3 weeks ago. While at the party, one of my friends asked my boyfriend about school, work, etc. My boyfriend has a degree in African languages and works at a nonprofit. I had a few drinks, so I called my boyfriend's degree useless because he doesn't make much money at his job. In a funny way, of course. Most of my friends laughed. One friend told me it was an idiot thing to say. My boyfriend wasn't happy either, although his degree really isn't all that useful. Ever since my boyfriend has been kind of cold, and I feel like an idiot. Edit. I have a degree in accounting. In a funny way, of course. I'm struggling to think of a funny way you could tell a group of people You think your boyfriend's choice of education or career is useless. What exactly do you do for a living? I can't imagine why your boyfriend wasn't happy about your comments. Don't be surprised if he doesn't stick around long enough to celebrate a second anniversary. You're terrible. You are the idiot times 10. I'm embarrassed for you. Even more so that you think you were at all funny when you publicly mocked your boyfriend's accomplishment. You likely made everyone uncomfortable, which was the awkward laughter you received. You see yourself as superior to him. You're not. You're pathetic and likely soon to be single. Your boyfriend's degree sounds fascinating. You sound like a total bore. Ha ha ha. You wasted your time by getting a degree that interests you. Good grief. You're insufferable. Break up with him then. You don't like him. Also, not every degree has to be job training. Outside of a few specific fields, engineering comes to mind, your degree may have nothing to do with your job, which is fine. The idea used to be that school taught you how to think and learn, and then your employer taught you the specifics to do the job. My wife and I have a toddler son, and we're expecting our second child next year. Both our children were conceived via IVF. We spent years trying for our first, with no success, and it took 4 cycles of IVF to have him. It was brutal on my wife, but we both felt like trying for biological children was the way to go for us. We tried naturally for a second child after our first turned 1, but had 0 luck. We were left with the money for 1 cycle of IVF, which we decided to pursue if we didn't have any luck naturally, which we didn't. Around a year ago, my wife and I were gearing up to start the ball rolling on our IVF journey when my sister came and asked if she could have the money to try IVF herself. My sister has no bio kids, but does have a twin stepson. She has endometriosis and PCOS and has never been able to have a child. Her stepson is not very close to her, and they've had problems with him since the start of their marriage. Her stepson has always mentioned that his dad married again too soon after his mom died, and how my sister's trying to replace her. He's run away from home 3 times already. They also had the police and CPS on their door because he tried to get removed from their care. Our main reason for saying no is we wanted to give our son a sibling, but I can't lie and say that the dynamic in our home wasn't on my mind too, and I wasn't sure bringing a new baby into their home was a good idea when things were as bad. She was very upset with me for turning her down. She said she had no kids, and we already had 1, and we'd give her a chance if we gave her the money. I shut her down. I told her my answer was no, and it was final. We waited for my wife to be far enough along before announcing our last IVF cycle worked. We did this at a family dinner. Everyone was so happy for us, except for my sister and her husband. She started making snarky comments about how it was no big deal when we already had a kid. I told her that given our struggles, it was a big deal. Our parents told her she should be happy for us. She then starts ranting and raving about how selfish we are to deny her motherhood and to deny her and her husband the chance to have a family together. Our other sister pointed out her stepson. She told her she's not his mother and he hates her guts, so it's not like she'll ever get any joy out of mothering him. I told her I was sorry she couldn't have a biological kid, but she didn't get to demand we sacrifice a second child for her. She then told me I held her stepson against her. I told her I couldn't say that it hadn't crossed my mind that bringing a child into a complicated mess would be a bad idea. But that was beside the point, because we wanted another child. She told me I was an idiot for humiliating her in front of the whole family and picking a fight with her. I told her she picked the fight, not me. But I did engage. So, am I the idiot? Holy crap, not the idiot. It's your money, end of story. Why does she feel so entitled to it? Like you both want to buy your kid so bad, you can both go out and get second jobs to fund your IVF. Dear Lord, that's insane. You didn't deny your sister anything. She's not entitled to your money. If IVF is something she's interested in, she and her husband can figure out ways to raise the funds. They shouldn't expect to be handed them. I know IVF is absurdly expensive, and my heart goes out to those who choose to go that route. But kids are also expensive after you have them. Does she plan on asking for money then too? And getting mad when she isn't helped? There's already a child in her household too. It's easy to see why he feels like he does about her, since she discounts his existence. And good grief, if things are bad there now, they would be much worse if she introduces another child into the home. Ahem, one she would consider her real child. The only thing you could do better is tell her in private earlier, but that's not really why she's angry with you. The public announcement is nothing but more oil on the fire. About 2 months ago, I, 25 female, began renting a room in my house to a student, 19 female, at the nearby college. Originally, she was just staying for the summer, but decided to stay for the coming school year as well. We're the only people living in my house. My boyfriend visits a few times a week. She and I get along quite well. I'm not a strict landlord or anything. In the contract, it says she can have friends or guests over within reason, and she's been good about it, up until recently. She and her boyfriend split up about a month ago. She didn't seem too upset, as it was a long time coming. She's been back on dating apps and has been bringing guys over, usually to spend the night. At first, I was okay with it. She brought someone home maybe once a week, but now it's increasing, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable in my own home. Just this Saturday, I went downstairs for breakfast and ran into a stranger just casually making himself some coffee, using my mug, as if he lived there. The awkwardest thing was that he started checking me out and asked if I was single. When I asked her who that was later, she said it was someone I met at the club. I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable in my home and wonder if I would be the idiot for telling her to tone it down a bit. Like, I can't sleep well at night knowing there are random men in my house. Once a week is reasonable, but 3 to 4 times is a bit much. My boyfriend thinks I should talk to her because even he's uncomfortable with all the strangers entering my home. Edit. My tenant/roommate brings hookups 3 to 4 times a week to my house, making me uncomfortable. Not the idiot. Normally a tenant gets a ton of latitude about overnight guests, with just restrictions on how many nights a week. But when you're sharing your kitchen and bathroom, your landlord sets the rules, and the tenant decides if they like them. Tell her no more overnight randos. She lost that privilege when she let in a creeper who hit on her in her own kitchen. While this is true, it has to be before the lease is signed. Unless these stipulations were in the original contract, this sort of limitation would get you firmly on the wrong side of tenant law in a lot of places around the world. Most courts would find that the tenant was reasonable here in terms of expectations of the contract, even if we socially would call it the opposite. No way. This is not a landlord-tenant relationship. She's a lodger. There is way more latitude to kick out a lodger for reasons way more trivial. It is dangerous to have strangers wandering around the house at night. She also shouldn't let them go around the house on their own. One of these dudes is going to steal your stuff, or worse one day. From the moment you rent, it's not just your home. It's hers too. So you are the idiot. You can have a talk with her, but you can't demand, and she can say no. Within reason doesn't mean anything. Yup, I wouldn't want potentially 15 new dudes each month, knowing exactly where I lived. Still, good luck clarifying the definition of within reason, since it isn't specifically explained in your tenant agreement. Hopefully she'll understand.